All right. Hello. Welcome everybody to today's episode of Let's Talk Mental Health. My name is Jamie. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's degree in Christian counseling of substance abuse and addictive disorders. I got my license for addiction counseling at Arizona State Prison, and I was a licensed mental health counselor for about 4 years before I had a midlife crisis, realized I wasn't what I wanted to be when I grew up. And here I am. So I just want to go through a couple quick housekeeping disclaimers. I am not a licensed therapist. I am no longer a licensed therapist, but if I was a licensed therapist, I couldn't be your therapist because I'm just some rando on the internet. Everything we discuss in today's podcast is going to be educational from experience or just interesting. None of it is to be substituted for counseling or advice. Today, we have a special guest, Miss Cherita O'Dell, and she's going to introduce herself. So tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me on here. My name is Cherita O'Dell. I am from the island of Barbados, where I currently am. I would, however, have gone to college in the US, Rice University, Houston, Texas, go Owls. And then I would have completed my master's degree in Puerto Rico. I am an entrepreneur, a realtor, and a speaker as well.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that about you. So I guess we are going to start with take me back to your Olympic level moment that defined you. What happened and what did that moment do for you mentally?
I was in college I think, around 20 years of age. I made a big jump at a track meet and it qualified me to be one of a 5-member team from Barbados. And
Okay.
that was at the 1996, yeah, way back, Centennial Games in Atlanta. And what people don't realize is that usually just before the meet, they are often smaller track meets to help keep the athletes sharp. They're, surrounding the Olympic Village itself. And there was one such meet in which I was competing. I was the last of the jumpers, and it started raining cats and dogs. Now, in sports, usually they tend to cancel meets once they see lightning. So it was getting pretty bad, and they made a decision. Okay, you're the last jumper. After you, we are shutting this meet down. So I went blazing down the runway at full speed because after all, this was going to be my last practice before the actual Olympic event, and I could hardly see. But I gave it my all, and as I hit the board to take off, I felt my foot slip from under me because the board was wet. And as I went to take off, my leg tore in 3 places: behind my knee, behind my leg, and what you call just under your glutes, under your butt.
Oh my
So
goodness.
3 tears all in one. I would have crumpled in the sand. Um, it was horrendous from that perspective because imagine you're seeing the stands clearing out and you're there by yourself, realizing that you have just hit the highest and lowest point of your life at the exact same time.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so in the days that followed, I know it takes 2 days to run out of tears. I have proven the theory and I can laugh today. I would have also involuntarily fasted. Voluntarily fasted, no food, no drinks for about 2, 3 days. As you can imagine, it was just a wreck.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, but harder than dealing with the injury because athletes go through injuries all the time.
right.
And you know that you're going to recover and recuperate. But the hurtful part was that it was 3 places that was torn. It was almost like making sure you can't even hobble
Oh
to
my
try to
goodness.
go down that runway just to say that you've done it. And the hardest part was not coping with the injury on that day, but building up the courage to call my parents that night and let them know that the dream was over. That was actually harder for me.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was the Olympic Games for me. So I had to watch my own event
Hmm.
on TV from within the dorm.
Oh,
I
wow.
had to be the one taking the photos of the team as they prepared for the opening ceremony.
Hmm.
Overall, it was just a nightmare.
Yeah.
Um, but you do survive. But that was
Yeah.
my experience.
Yeah. I imagine that probably took a little bit of a toll on you too, because you're
Mhm.
watching everybody do what you want to do, right? So people see the performance. What was happening with you internally that you felt like nobody else could see? I know you had talked about you were gonna have to call your parents, so obviously there was like a sense of dread there.
Yes. Um, you see, when you're at the Olympics, it's not just you anymore. You are representing a country, you know. So for weeks after I went home, even though it was not the case, I felt like if people were staring at me,
Hmm.
saying, look at that failure,
Right.
you know. And obviously that was all in my head.
Right.
And you question a lot. What would have happened if I didn't take that jump?
Right.
You know, what would have happened if I had eased off the speed a little bit? There's so many what ifs that go through your mind, and you play over a lot of scenarios for months. Um,
You think you were your own worst critic?
of course,
Okay.
because part of what gets athletes to that level in the first place is that they have a very strong critic in their talking, which enables them to um, want to push to improve continuously. Um, so then to not be able to execute when it was needed the most, that's that's what made it extremely rough. You're literally flogging yourself. You
Yeah.
know, just taking that cat of nine tails and flogging yourself. Yeah, mentally it was uh it was tumultuous because it's a lot of negative replaying, a lot of
Right.
what ifs, a lot of, I let down my country, I let down myself. Why couldn't I just have had that just one day?
Right.
Right, just one day,
Right.
so
Do you think that there was a moment either during this or after this where maybe you had sort of your catalyst moment where you thought this is going to impact how I envision my future or move through life?
the thing is, I always knew that I didn't necessarily want to be a professional athlete, right? There's some people, professional athletes, you know that you're going to into that as a life career. Well,
Mhm.
lifelong up until 30 something.
Mhm.
Um, but I kind of knew that that was not necessarily going to be me. I didn't necessarily want that for myself. But at the same time, I was like, well, how do you move past this? Because you've hit the highest point of sport. What other level is there to go? And to talk about, okay, maybe the next Olympics I'll do it. That is literally a handful of people who are able to have repeat Olympics. It is the land of the elite. There are people rising up
Right.
every day that can be better than you. So there's no guarantee that you make it in 4 years. So I
Right.
kind of knew in my gut that that was as far as I was gonna go, and it was more a matter of deciding, do I even continue um, with track? Because I still had 2 more years of my, or 1 more year thereafter of my athletic scholarship. So I
Right.
still had to compete regardless if I wanted to have my tuition paid for. So
Right.
I think that was the driving force to make me know that even though mentally I wanted to check out, I couldn't.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so I had to get back. I had to say to myself, you know what? All right, morning, as they say, weeping endures when the joy comes in the morning. You've mourned, you felt sorry for yourself long enough. Get back up. Nobody's remembering this but you. So
Right.
what are you gonna do? Stay down and play victim forever, or are you gonna get back up and finish strong? And that is naturally wired into every athlete. So eventually I had to get over myself and get back to it.
Well, what belief about yourself kind of broke you in that moment? And how did you replace that belief?
The belief was kind of like, only me. This would only happen to me. And what broke that belief was, why not you?
Hmm.
Other people have experienced tragedy too during these games.
Hmm.
You always hear about, let's say, a boxer or somebody who missed their game who missed their match because the bus didn't show up on time. You've heard, I think while I was at the games, I heard of a swimmer who went, clubbing or to a bar or whatever 1 or 2 nights before his event, and in climbing over a fence fell and broke his arm. Why not you? You're not the only one in life that life is happening to.
Hmm.
So what are you gonna do? Just stay there and wallow in self-pity while the world keeps going on?
Right.
Or are
Right.
you gonna get back up?
Right.
So at that point you realize, look, it's time to get back up. It's time to get on.
Yeah, and I think we've all kind of been there. Like I know when I've had a setback, sometimes I'll be like, I swear this always happens to me. And then it's like, you've got to stop speaking that into existence, girl. Like
Correct.
you have to start understanding this is just a challenge. There's a lesson in this, and you can move on. And it's not, obviously it's not meant for you. That's why you have to keep going. But in that moment, it can be so, so hard.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, yes.
yeah, and it's like, you know, it's hard to be positive in the moment, especially because sometimes you hear so much toxic positivity, right? And it's hard to be like, "Oh, I can overcome this." And I always tell people like, you're allowed to feel what you feel in that moment. Just don't sit with it forever. I have a rule for myself, which is I'm allowed to be upset, I'm allowed to be angry for X amount of time. Depending on
Yes.
the severity, it's usually like 24 hours. And then after that is up, I have to get up and move on. I'm not allowed to like wallow in it. And since I've started doing that, like I've noticed that, my mood improves and everything because it's like you have to at least get through that
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable emotion. You can't avoid it. And if you're going to be hard on yourself, you can only do it for 24 hours and then you got to move
Yeah.
on. So
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
yeah, so you said that experience changed how your brain is wired. What does that actually mean for you in real life?
Mm. Well, when you have reached the ultimate level of sport, what we consider to be the epitome of sports worldwide,
Hmm.
and you have a tragedy like that, um, what comes afterward that persons might consider to be, you know, tough, challenging, overwhelming, my mind just doesn't process it like that because that was kind of the worst thing I had ever experienced.
Right,
And it has therefore helped me get past situations that persons might otherwise consider crippling because my mind always uses that as the measuring stick for my tolerance of trauma. Um, and therefore, even though, life is constantly happening to me, because of that scenario, everything else has kind of not paled in comparison, but at the same time, not floored me as much. That was a defining chapter in my life, and any challenges that I have had thereafter, yeah, they may have knocked me a little bit, but then my brain remembers that, and it's
right,
like, oh, I'll be good. I'll be good by evening.
right, right. And I think we have to kind of recondition our brain to get that way too.
Hmm.
Do you think resilience is something that you can build or something that maybe we're forced into?
Mm. I believe it's a bit of both.
Okay.
Sometimes you don't know what you're capable of until you're put in that situation. I always remember, for example, the guy who was trapped in between two rock faces,
Hmm.
and he had to make a decision to cut his own arm off to get out. Now, if you ask anybody that question on a given day, would you be able to do this? Everyone would be like, no, no, I would stay there and die. But the human desire to live is so strong that you are surprised mentally as to what you would be able to do if put in the situation.
Hmm.
So sometimes circumstances bring it out of you. But also, I think it can be tailored based on how you predetermine you're going to react to situations,
Mhm.
right? So, um, when you start to frame things as life happens, but whatever is thrown my way, I am going to fight it and I am going to handle it as best I can and overcome. You start prepping your brain, even whether it's with affirmations or with a way of thinking that prepares you and enables you to do that. So I do believe it is a mixture of both. Trial and testing can pull a lot out of you, and sometimes you just don't know until you're put in the furnace.
Right. And I think that's fair. I think sometimes we don't really know what we're capable of until we
Mhm.
have no choice, and I think that I think there's a lot of times where I have thought something would break me if it happened to me, and then something like worse happened to me and I found a
Yeah.
way through it and I'm like, okay, I actually can do this. I just need to really kind of be in that survival mode to do it, but I can do
Mhm.
it. What is the difference between someone who breaks after a moment like that and someone who rebuilds?
Well, I like to look at it like this. A pearl, beautiful pearl, actually is a result of agitation
Hmm.
within the oyster shell
Hmm.
from a grain of sand. Right? So
Right. Yeah.
if you handle, listen, if you handle a good crisis, let's call it a good crisis, you can evolve and come out like so much better on the other side. And handling it well doesn't mean acting as if it didn't happen to you or as if it didn't crush you. But I believe it means handling the evolution of your emotions possibly
Right.
properly. So as we discussed, yes, you're allowed to get angry. You're allowed to be sad.
Hmm.
You're allowed to cry your eyes out. But each of those has a season.
Right.
And if you are in one season too long, that is what will mess up the balance, right? So
Right.
allow yourself to go through your emotional flywheel, but the key is do not dwell in one of those seasons for too long because then it can turn you from being an overcomer
Hmm.
into a victim for the
Yes.
rest of your life.
Yes. And I think sometimes that's how people can end up in victim mindset for so long because they don't realize like you're kind of doing this to yourself by not realizing like you can move on and try again. I always try to think of it like, if you fall down, do we just lay there and cry? Are we toddlers? Or do we get back up? Do we clean off our scraped knees and try to keep going? And I think like when we stay stuck, that's it reminds me of a toddler tantrum,
Mm.
because it's almost unreasonable. We're allowed to feel that emotion and then maybe fall asleep and take a nap after. And then wake up and we're like, we're clear-headed because I do think that to some degree being angry and all of those emotions, like crying, whatever, I do think in a way that helps us process. But if we stay stuck,
Yes.
like we can't, if we stay stuck in that mindset, we're going to start making everybody around us miserable as well.
Mm. Yes, yes, indeed.
So you talked about people getting hooked on patterns. How similar do you think that is to addiction, in your opinion?
Mm. It's the same root cause. It's just that unfortunately, um, some patterns can end up being more harmful physically and mentally than others. But uh, it's the same modus operandi. We become stuck in a way of doing something, sometimes because it brings us pleasure.
Hmm.
Um, and even in instances where it doesn't bring us pleasure, we just don't have the strength to stop,
Right,
right?
right.
So uh, what makes athletes very good at what they do is that they take discipline is kind of like almost the converse of what it takes to fall into addictions or toxic patterns, right? So I
Hmm.
always tell people discipline was not necessarily me enjoying training.
Right.
I hated training. I was I hated it,
Right.
but I always wanted to be on that, you know, the winners, the podium. I always wanted to be on the top level of the podium. So in order to get there, I have to train and I have to train hard. And I have to do it kind of whether I am in the frame of mind for it, whether I like it, whether I'm feeling the emotions or not. So that's kind of like a way of harnessing patterns in a positive light, doing something over and over and over again until you reap positive results.
Right.
Now, the toxicity or addictions is doing the converse, doing something over and over again, leading to negative results. And, sometimes you just have to find a way to take that negative behavior and turn it into a positive one, as opposed to trying to stop things cold turkey.
Hmm.
So, for example, if you know that, I'm just saying hypothetically, if you know that you speaking to or gossiping, let's take a basic thing like gossiping.
Hmm.
You gossip with Sally every day to get your fix and bring her up to speed, and she brings you up to speed. But guess what? You can talk to someone else every day too, but determine that you're going to talk about positive things that you saw around the world. So
Right.
you're doing your same kind of like behavior, but
Hmm.
you are pouring it into something else.
Right. Right.
And,
Channeling
and
that
that is
energy in a different direction, I think.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that works a lot better than just trying to, I'm ending my toxic behavior now. No, it never happens. It'll never
Right.
work.
Right. And I think to some degree, we all kind of find ourselves doing something unhealthy, whether it's
Oh, yeah.
gossip or uh shopping or you know,
Yes. Yes.
we all have things and I think it's really one of those things we have to do in moderation. And I also think there's a difference between like venting and straight up gossiping, right? Like if you're going through something
Hmm.
and you want to talk about, you know what that person did to me or whatever. So I think that all, but I think if we get too stuck on that narrative, and it can happen because
Correct.
I've had it happen to me where it's like I want to keep saying something about someone, and then I'm like, no, just like let it go, stop giving it attention, and I do think that that can be a little bit
Hmm.
addicting because you're getting the ear of somebody, right? What are some of the
Yes.
most
Yes.
common whoops, I can't speak today. What are some of the most common patterns that you see people repeating that are ruining their lives?
Ooh. The first one that comes to mind is negative self-talk. Um,
Guilty, guilty.
oh man.
Working on it though.
People,
I'm working on it. I've been
no,
journaling,
good,
so
good,
I'm
good.
working on it, but I
The
have
first
been
step,
definitely guilty.
the first step is acknowledgement and
Hmm.
recognition, right? But negative self-talk, oh my gosh. Perfect example. Have you ever noticed that some of the most beautiful girls in the world never think they're pretty?
Yes.
It's really strange. Some of the prettiest people have the biggest insecurity. Like,
Right.
and I think, for example, because people are affirming them so much, they figure, oh, it can't be true. Or they're just liking me for looks, but they don't even value me as a whole entity. Negative self-talk is, let me tell you, that is something that will break you down if left unchecked.
Hmm.
Because when you go out in the world, you are already expecting the short end of the stick,
Right.
bad things to happen to you, to be treated less than, to not be deserving of. Imagine if you took that and turned it in the other direction.
Right.
So,
Do you think
that's
imposter syndrome plays into that a little bit? Like maybe they're pumped up so much that they're like how you were saying like they don't believe it because they hear it so much. But do you think maybe
yeah,
they don't feel qualified at times?
that is exactly it too. A lot of us engage in negative self-talk, but you have to ask yourself, that results in you not feeling qualified enough.
Right.
So one of the techniques that I use as an athlete, which has been, people always say, "How are you so confident? How are you so?" And it's not necessarily that you were born that way,
Right.
but I would have talked to myself and affirmed myself positively for so long that if you step to me trying to tell me something bad about myself, it's gonna bounce off.
Right.
And that happened not just through sports, but as a teenager growing up, I was insulted brutally for being, I looked like the number one, all by itself one. I was as thin as a rake. I was like olive oil from Popeye.
Okay.
I was like Olive. I was like Olive. Yeah, ridiculous. And imagine I would have heard insults for so long that I remember initially I took them on and felt bad about myself. And then I said, no, I have to fight back. And what I did is when you think about when you're playing those adventure video games, right?
Mhm.
Remember when you pick up little treasures and little rewards, your strength kind of grows?
Yes.
I made a decision that if you were to tell me anything about negative about myself, you were actually empowering me. And I framed my mind that every insult I got, that was a power pellet. They're insulting me because they know I'm better than they are. They're insulting me because they see how great I can be. And I rewired my brain differently. And then around the age of 20, I made a conscientious decision that nothing negative said about me will ever bother me. And that lasts till this day. So you could stand in front of me and hurl all sorts of insults. You could try to beat me down however you want. It literally goes over me like, water off a duck's back. And that's something that I would have programmed my mind to be able to handle for decades. And you can do that. That's how you can fight back against that number one toxic trait, negative self-talk.
So, what I find interesting about you saying that is this. I went into the service in
Mhm.
2007, and what kept me going, and I was a professional quitter before this, okay? I quit
Mm.
everything. If it got too hard, if I thought I was doing too good, a queen of self-sabotage. And I remember being in basic training, and there were days where I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And in the back of my head, there was a family member who I knew if I went home, he was going to say, I knew you couldn't do it. And so I turned it kind of into like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And it was sort of a gradual change over the course of my life that now if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to make it a
Mm.
point to now do it. And it was really interesting because I ended up telling him that some years later, and he goes, well, if that's what kept you motivated, then I guess it was helpful. But I mean, and it's true because I think, and we've talked about this in psychology, how sometimes people, you put them down enough and they stay down. But then you have
Mm.
some people where they reverse it and they'll be like,
Yes.
if you're gonna, they do the prove me wrong thing. So that's what I love that you shared that because it's so relatable. And I wish more
Hmm.
people would realize that it's almost fun to be able to say, like, even if I don't succeed, like you told me I couldn't do it, but I tried, and at
Yes.
least I tried. Like, if I would have never tried, then I couldn't do it because I didn't try. That's really interesting. Why do you think people stay in patterns they know are not working for them?
Well, simply because patterns are your body on autopilot.
Hmm.
Okay, perfect example. And this is on a basic level.
Hmm.
I need to sleep earlier, okay? I have known this since the dawn of time. I don't get enough sleep. I know this. And every day I wake up, I say, tonight is going to be the night that we're going to bed early, at least before 11 o'clock, okay? But watch the body on autopilot because I've trained it for so long. At minutes to 11 o'clock, what am I going to do? I've just finished a TV show. I could get up. I could get up and go to bed at that point. But no, autopilot in me is craving, hit that remote to just click one more episode. Just one more.
It's
It'll
the
only push me
dopamine
to like,
hit.
yeah, just one more episode. How bad it could be. And then once again, for another night, I'm struggling to drag myself in at midnight, wondering, how did I get here?
Right,
So, you
right.
know, it is something that we allow autopilot to take over
Hmm.
and a comfort level to take over. And then in some patterns too, there's a level of pleasure. So as you said, the dopamine hit from my TV shows, watching TV. For
Hmm.
some people, it might be from uh, drugs.
Yeah,
Let me just, I know I said I would stop, but that high, I was close to the first high I ever got. Let me just go one more time.
right.
And each time and you always trick yourself that you have the power within you to stop on your own.
Yes,
And the reality is you don't.
right, right. I could quit anytime I wanted to. I just don't want to.
You
Yeah.
can't.
Said
You
that
can't.
and I know it's cap. I
You
really
can't.
do.
You can't. So the first step is always acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for those who are spiritual, whatever your operating belief system is,
Mm-hmm.
tap into that. I always say unapologetically that God for me is my source. So I'd be like, God, you gotta help me on this one. I can't get it done on my own. You need to send some sort of divine help. Or go and find help. Whether it is a treatment center, whether it is a community support group, whether it is a specific podcast that
Mm-hmm.
aligns with what your struggle might be, tap into that. And
Right,
and there's something healing about seeing other people with the same struggle.
right. I'm so sorry. My cat, she does this. She's like, she's she's trying to be my assistant, apparently.
That is all right. She's enjoying herself.
She does every time I film, I've just learned to let her walk across because if I move her, she just comes back. But she knows there's a dog down here, so she's kind of teasing the dog.
Uh,
She's kind of like Nana Nana Boo Boo. So,
I have two
Bella,
cats, so I automatically knew what that was when I saw it.
so you actually kind of answered my next question, which was what does it actually take to break a pattern? And that is acknowledging and finding that support. How do you know the difference between this is who I am versus this is just a pattern?
The difference between this is who I am and this is just a pattern. I would say this, if you know in your heart, and the first step is acknowledgement, that
Hmm.
something is stopping you from being your best self,
Hmm.
it is usually some toxic pattern. If you have a blueprint in your head as to what your best self is to look like, if it were up to me, my best self would be uh, dominating in my chosen profession, being this great partner or wife or mother or guardian, etc. And whatever you're going through is stopping you from getting there. That's how you know it's a pattern, a toxic trait,
Right.
as opposed to um, the skills and talents and gifts that were placed in you. You see, I firmly believe that there's certain things that are placed in you, in each of us, that are intended to help you get where you are supposed to be,
Right.
help you fulfill your purpose on the earth. When you start understanding that you are literally on earth, not just to take up space and oxygen, but to make an impact, to be here on purpose, that your gifts and skill set help someone else be their best self. When you start looking at life that way, you start to see things totally different. And you start to realize that um, if maybe this is what I was intended to be, let's say hypothetically, I'm a chef, and maybe my food is to help elevate people's experiences and make them feel joy and passion for life. And something is stopping me from executing, my skill set. That's a toxic pattern.
Okay.
So always think of toxic patterns as inhibiting you from fulfilling your true purpose, destiny, and assignment on this planet.
I like that. I like that. Now, when we had originally met before today, of course, you had
Mm-hmm.
mentioned something that really kind of stood out to me, and that was high achieving women who succeed everywhere but struggle in relationships. Like, why
Mm.
why does that happen?
Very often we have, once again, skills and talents that are second nature, right? Somebody might be a good corporate executive, somebody might be a great um, athlete, somebody else might be a phenomenal caretaker. But then we often have a thorn in our side, that one area that we just can't figure it out. We can't fix it. We can't make it happen. And for many people, that's often relationships because relationships take so many different components to work that many people often assume that because they're skilled in one area, this the relationship should be easy.
Mm-hmm.
No, no. Uh, it's hard because if you want a good relationship to happen, a lot of it includes literally dying to self, stopping from being selfish and
Mm-hmm.
trying to be selfless. And that's something that, thanks to modern day life, has become this unicorn. We've heard of it.
Yeah. Do you think that it's possible that, and this isn't really just specific to women, but do you think it's possible that sometimes when somebody's a high achiever, that maybe by the time it comes to relationships, they're just tired of trying to achieve? And maybe that's why they struggle in their relationships because they're putting all of their energy into whatever their job or their career, their business or whatever, and then they come home and they have nothing left for their partner. Do you think that's possible?
I do believe that's possible, but not the only thing.
Right.
One of the things that I learned from my own experience is that when I was a hotelier in four-star resorts and so forth, and I had my 12-hour days, given my all, trust me, I wanted a partner.
Hmm.
In my head, I was open for a partner. But guess what? I later heard feedback that when person saw me, I looked so happy in my space that I didn't look as if I needed anyone to help fill any voids,
Right.
right? So sometimes a lot of times there's a catch-22. A lot of times women and men get busy because they don't have a partner. So
Hmm.
they use their work, their passion, their whatever as a void filler.
Right.
But then sometimes too, what happens is that who might be interested, especially when men look at a woman, men want to feel needed. So if they look on at you and they could see that you have your 12-hour job, and then you go to your hour-long Pilates, and then you go to your hour-long bar session with your girlfriends, they literally do not see any space for themselves and
Right.
sometimes can assume that, you know, they are not what you want or need at that
Right.
time.
Right.
So we could be doing a lot of self-sabotaging uh, just because we look as if we have it all together.
Right. Right. And I do think, especially with women, we have a tendency to always want to look like we have it together, even when maybe we're not feeling it.
Yes.
Um, what do you think? And this goes back to kind of high achieving women in relationships just in general, but what do you think that women are tolerating that they shouldn't be in these
Ooh.
relationships?
They are tolerating the whole red flag army. Let me explain. They they are tolerating. Listen, let's be honest. We can see the red flags from a mile away. We can see
Yes.
them.
Yes.
But we often think that they'll be so smitten with me that I could help change that.
Right.
I could help fix that. The problem is many times we operate with no filter and no boundaries,
Right.
right? So no filter in the sense that we have not established for ourselves what we are willing to tolerate. And then off of that, we kind of have our, inherent checklist as to this is a no-go for me. The problem is a lot of people are just open, so open that you're letting anything get into your space and hoping and praying that it works out. No. And that's
Right.
how you then end up with a lot of pain
Right.
because if you had your filters and your boundaries, when you recognize all those red flags, you could have said, no, this is not something I would tolerate. This person
Right.
is not for me, and move along. We then allow people to be in our space way longer than they need to be. And then by the time we have the bravery to get rid of them, too much damage has been caused.
Right. Right. Do you think that success actually masks relationship dysfunction? And if so, how?
Success masking relationship dysfunction. And do you mean success on a whole, success in
I
career?
yeah, I think success in general, because you know how we're talking about high achievers. So sometimes, you know, and you'll see this, especially like with celebrities where, you know, they're at the peak of their life and they have this what looks like an amazing marriage, and then 3 months later
Mm,
they're getting a divorce. You're like, wow, I thought they were happy. Like they look like they were happy,
yes.
right? So I think the average person can experience that as well. You don't have to be a celebrity to experience that. And so, do you think that that success that we sometimes feel is maybe a way for people to mask their relationship dysfunction? It's kind of like, you know, how like people always post to social media how great their relationship is, and they're
Oh,
usually the
yes.
ones with the biggest struggles.
Yes.
So I kind of feel like in relation to sort of that type of scenario, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Um, Listen, we are in this modern era, we are all living to put out our highlight reel.
Hmm.
We don't want anyone to see us as damaged and limping, right? So
We don't.
we don't. And because of that, it then carries over into other things. That
Right,
even if we're struggling and things are falling apart, let me still, we're not going to show that.
right,
But you know what? Let me show at least the picture of when we were together last week at the coffee shop smiling.
right.
And we're
So
not necessarily repairing.
social media is
Oh,
curating this aesthetic.
yes,
Hmm.
indeed. And behind the scenes, we are not necessarily working on the tools to repair situations. When I went through marriage counseling, I found it interesting that the main word that my husband and I came away with, and we always giggle at it, but it's powerful, repair. Repair. From the
Yeah,
time that we see something is falling apart or we are having a disagreement over something, yeah, disagreements are allowed, you know, that form of expression is allowed. But if ever it gets out of alignment with respect and how and fair disagreement,
right.
how do we repair this?
Well, and I think we are in an era, I guess, or maybe it goes even beyond my age, right? But I do think we're in an era where people picture relationships, whether it's a marriage or just a long-term relationship, as, you know, something that's easy peasy and wonderful. You know, and I can tell you I've been married for 10 years, and there are times where you have to put as much work into your marriage as you have to put into your job or your business. And I
Yes.
think people forget that it's not always going to be easy, especially if you have kids, if you have jobs, if you have
Mhm.
other things going on. And so, you know, essentially, I think it is that plays a role in also the masking, because, you know, we want to look like we have it all together, but we don't want to look like we're failing in this one area, whatever that area is. But it does tend to seem to me like it's relationships where we see
Yeah.
that. You know, now sometimes people will say nothing is wrong, but there's something wrong. What do you think they are struggling with, or what do you think they need to adjust
Mm.
when it comes to relationships?
Yeah, the biggest hang up in relationships, where
Hmm.
if we could fix this globally, everyone would be walking around with bells and whistles on. Communication.
Okay. I
Communication. And beyond that, communication too in the form of understanding each other's language, right? So firstly, you have to talk to one another.
mhm.
A lot of relationships get so caught up in the routine of it all that sometimes you forget to even look in your partner's face and see what they look like that day and talk to them. But above and beyond that, what is your love language? If I'm bringing you flowers weekly, thinking that, yeah, I've done my duty, they should be happy, but all your partner wanting to hear is, you're such a good mom. I love how you operate with your team at work. Suppose your partner just wanted to hear words of affirmation. And here you are, giving of your best in the flower department, and acts of service department, washing their car every
Mhm.
week, but you're not hitting what their true love language is, which might be words of affirmation and touch.
Right. Right.
you know? So communication is not just about us talking and sharing how we feel and letting one another know that, I know we joked about such and such this morning, but when you said X, that actually really offended me. We don't
Right.
do that. So then one
Right.
person goes to work for the entire day resentful, and
Yes.
the other partner is, skipping and jumping, thinking he had a great connection or she had a great connection with their spouse in the morning.
Right.
So communication is pivotal in making sure relationships flourish.
Yeah. What do you think is a hard truth that women don't want to hear about their dating patterns?
Ooh, that they have a bad picker. um, they don't want to hear sometimes, the biggest thing that they don't want to hear, that they are the common denominator to their relationships not working out.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And I think
And
part of it is they keep going for the same type of person.
yes.
I'll tell you the cycle I got caught up in.
Mm.
I wanted to fix them. And then once I realized I need to go for the opposite of what I like, then I was able to find what worked for me. So,
Yes. I will tell you this, and going along with what you said, I always bring up this analogy. I went to a conference once, which was so phenomenal. One of the workshops, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he did a very basic exercise, which was so liberating. And essentially, long and short of it is sit down and write 100 things about the opposite sex that you love. And you'll find that a lot of our list becomes very physical,
right.
right? So, bow legs. Ooh, big chest. Yes. Bald head. Oh, honest, etc. So we put down 100 things, and then look at what happens when you're told, all right, out of those 100, select only 25. You then realize that a lot of the physical desires that little lust demon likes, right? All
Yeah.
of a sudden, they're not making it to the top 25. So
Right.
my little bow legs and 6'1" didn't make it to the top 25 because I wanted to make sure that I got in adventurous and spontaneous and honest, financially stable, that those got in the top 25. But then look at this. Drop it down. And I know I was always resistant to lists, right? But this was the one list that actually made sense to me. Drop it down now to the top 10 non-negotiable list. And all of a sudden, you started painting a better picture of or creating a filter. So for me, I am, as I say, a woman of faith. So I wanted a Christian to be my number one thing. Other people might not care, but they might want adventure lover as their number one thing.
Right.
Right. And then when I did my top 10 list, it had what ideally would be someone that I could relate to and fall for because they were honest, they had a sense of humor, they were spontaneous, they were romantic. Those are some of the traits I had on my list, right?
Right.
And just by doing that, you've created your filter. So guess what? Any guys that step to me and I realize, okay, Cherita, they're cute, but they don't have a job and don't plan to get a job anytime soon. Guess what? They can't make it any further.
Right. Right. Right.
Right? And it stops you from entertaining nonsense and hoping that it turns into roses.
Right.
So that filtration system is very important. And the irony of everything, my husband, he is everything I wanted on my list. And except for one thing which developed as we went along, as he became one with me,
Mm-hmm.
that one trait started to bloom.
Aw. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. I love it. All right. So now we're going to move on to talking a little bit about self-worth. And I
Mhm.
just remember when we talked before, this is like my favorite part of our conversation. Because you have so much like knowledge and things that are interesting to me. Everybody says know your worth. What do you think that
Mhm.
actually looks like in behavior?
Knowing your worth has to do with first of all, understanding how valuable you are, right?
Hmm.
When you realize that there's no one like you. There's literally no one like you. If you took all the different DNA strands and compared and contrasted them, there is no one like you. You are literally a designer's original. Your designer created one and only one of you. When you start seeing yourself in that light, you walk differently. You take care of yourself differently because you understand you are it, literally, right? Um, Knowing your worth comes from understanding too what is in you. See those gifts, skills, and talents that I spoke about earlier?
Hmm.
Unique to you. When you understand what you're here for, and it takes us a while, think about it. In high school, we're just trying to get through high school. We don't know that we're intended to be, a top artist, a top singer, a surfer to conquer the world. You don't know that yet until later on. But when you harness those traits about you that make you unique, you start to understand that, wow, this skill set here is to help me to walk in my purpose.
Hmm.
And it helps to elevate how you see yourself. So you don't then try to copy Kathy's behavior. You don't try to emulate Sally's behavior or
Hmm.
John's behavior or be more like John because you understand there's only one of you. You're here for a reason. And these skills and talents in you are for you only to be a gift to the world.
Hmm.
When you understand that, you walk in a confidence that no one can shatter. And that is firstly understanding your worth. And then from there, so much can spin off from that knowledge.
Okay. Okay. I love it. What are some signs that someone might think they have self-worth, but they actually don't?
Ooh.
I think sometimes people's material things make them think they have self-worth. I think sometimes, like I was watching an influencer who gives the appearance that she's very materialistic. And I
Mm.
think she defines her worth through what she has and
Wow.
not through who she is. And when I that's my perspective, but I'm
Hmm.
curious if you have anything to sort of add to that.
Yeah, that's a good launch pad. Secondly, if we go back to that world of relationships again, a lot of people, men and women, sometimes showcase their worth with who they're with, right? So sometimes you might have a young lady trying to snag that that hedge fund manager
Hmm.
because you then align your worth with his,
Right.
right? And almost trick yourself in believing that because I'm tied to him, my status has elevated. The world sees me and elevated, and so it shall be. But
Right.
guess what? When you then strip him away from you, you go back to what you had in the first place, which is probably hardly any self esteem,
Right. Right.
hardly any inner worth and inner belief about yourself. So a lot of people do it in relationships too by selecting people that they think that can, you know, make them be on the come up.
Right. Right. And do you think that low self-worth can show up in ways that we don't recognize within ourselves?
For sure. Um, Sadly, low self-worth often shows up in persons who might attract people that don't treat them the best,
Right.
right? Because you already don't believe in yourself enough. And let me tell you something, the spirit of an abuser can pick up who they are to be matched with,
Right.
right? A spirit of an abuser is not going to choose a super confident woman.
Right.
A spirit of an abuser is going to attach itself to someone who they know they can put down even further,
Right.
who they can control, who they can tell them whether they look good or not, and they will buy into it. So sadly, that is low self-worth often attracts people who will never see their value because they see themselves as valueless to begin with.
Right. Well, and I think sometimes it can show up even in our relationships
Mm-hmm.
by who we choose, right? We think that that's best we're ever going to get. I've seen
Yes.
more than one person do that where they're like, "Oh, well, nobody else is going to want me." And it's like,
Uh,
"Honey, you're too smart for that person. You're
yeah.
too, you're too pretty or too good or, too hardworking, whatever adjective we want to put in there." But did you struggle with self-worth? And if you did, what made you realize you had to change?
Well, to be honest with you, once again, because my mind was mentally strong from track,
Hmm.
um, I can't say I struggle with self-worth as most people might, because even when I was down to my lowest, I would always find a way to pump myself back up.
Hmm.
However, being human,
Hmm.
I started to wonder, but why not me?
Right.
I, 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 I have a good career. I'm
Right.
kind. I'm nice. I'm cute. You know, once I take a shower and use some soap, I'm cute. Um,
I clean up
why
nice.
not me? You understand? I can look good when I go outside. Why? So the humanity in me made me wonder, why am I still on the shelf?
Right.
You
Right.
know? And so you can have everything going for you, but still because enough persons are not stepping to you, you can question, am I worthy? Even though you know you are, you know.
Right. Right.
What's missing? What else do I need to add to my current formula to
Right.
make me stand out? So even people with the biggest self-worth, when they're not getting something they crave or that
Right.
they absolutely desire, yes,
Right.
they will question themselves.
Right.
That's natural.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it can be fluid sometimes depending on what's going on with us as well, you know?
Yeah.
'Cause I think there's times where we have more self-worth than others.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, my brother's been staying with us for the weekend, so my dog is like upset with him for not giving her attention. What do you think the connection is between self-worth and boundaries?
When it's like a queen on a throne in a castle,
Hmm.
right? When you absolutely believe that you are the queen of your kingdom, which is your mind, soul, emotions, body, you have bodyguards posted out front.
Right.
The peasants just can't run up and run into the castle to talk to you.
Right.
They must be vetted, they must be searched, they must be escorted to
Right.
even be in your presence and talk to you.
Right.
The problem is a lot of us don't carry ourselves like the queen in the castle
Right.
or the king in the castle. We make ourselves too accessible, too open. And then guess what? It allows anyone to come our way.
I had a lesson probably in the last like 5 weeks about how access needs to be earned and not just
Yes,
automatically granted. And it was
exactly.
a hard lesson. I had to eat a big piece of humble pie learning it,
Mm,
but access needs to be earned because if you don't have people earning it, then sometimes they think they can just do whatever they want because they're your friend and it's a hard
yes.
it was a hard lesson to learn at
Mm,
43 years old. I was like,
yeah.
this feels like something I should have learned in high school.
Never too late. Never too late.
Right, right. Why do people struggle to enforce boundaries even when they know better?
I think because sometimes we think that, especially in relationships, that establishing boundaries can whittle down our pool even more, our pool of candidates even more. Let's be
Right,
honest, like uh, specifically for you and who you are and your felt needs, the we automatically think that the world is our oyster. Okay, yes,
yeah,
sure, whatever.
yeah,
But in terms of who meets your needs,
right,
who meets your desires, the pool is not necessarily that big of quality human beings.
right.
And therefore, we get nervous that if we talk about establishing boundaries,
Hmm.
we're constricting the flow of possible prospects even further. Nobody wants to do that.
Right, Right.
But the beauty of boundaries is that I would say the filter helps determine who gets access to you.
Hmm.
The boundaries help determine what proximity they get access and when,
And
right?
I like that because, one thing that I think that I experienced in my first marriage was that I would draw a line, but then that line would get extended and extended and extended, and then there
Mm,
was no line. There came a point where there was just no line. And I think that it's really important to enforce boundaries because if you don't, that is what could happen to you potentially.
yes,
You know?
yes. And sometimes boundaries might be as simple as, if we're now talking, don't call me after 9 o'clock.
Right.
Because the tone of a conversation after 9 o'clock is way different from a tone at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes, yes.
You
If you're
know,
calling me
it
after
might,
9 o'clock, it better be an emergency.
yeah, yeah. Just simple things that at least initially you have not gained access to go into my romantic realm, which starts after 10, let's say.
Right, right,
So
right,
so in initial stages, don't be calling me, don't have all your calls coming to me at 5 minutes to 11 o'clock. Like what are you expecting? What healthy conversation are you expecting
right,
at that time of day?
right, right. And I think that is a boundary you almost have to set kind of early on, really.
Hmm.
What do you think is a boundary that people should set in that would change their life if they set it with people?
What? Repeat that again for me. Let me think.
What do you think is a boundary that people could set immediately that would change their life? Well, I'll tell you my thoughts while you're thinking.
So yeah,
My
that might
thought
help
is
for me.
that no is a complete sentence and we don't have to justify our no. Because
Love
I
it.
think we get caught up in over explaining why we can't do something or don't want to do something. And
Yes.
I think that that is a boundary you almost have to set immediately because if you don't, we go back to that. I drew the line, but then I extended the line and then I extended the line and then there was no line.
No, that's a
So,
very good one.
yeah.
That's a very good one. I would say along the lines of I'm thinking the wheels are turning.
I know I gave you the deer in the headlights question, didn't I? I'm
I
so
know,
sorry.
I'm like that.
I do
I'm
I
here
do this too.
thinking,
You give me a good question and I'm like, "Oh, I wasn't prepared for that."
yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say, for example, yeah, in thinking on that, I would say something like a simple boundary might be, if you truly, let's say at the start of relationships, it might be simply call me, don't text me. Something as simple as that.
Right.
Nothing wrong with texting has its place, right?
Right.
But if you want to get to know me, call me.
Right.
Let's meet in person.
Right.
Show me that you are intentional about pursuing me.
Right.
As simple as that. Don't ever let me have to chase you or try to figure out your intentions.
Right.
I'm still traditional in that sense.
Right.
And it goes, don't get me wrong. Yes, you want it coming from your prospective partner to you, but also in terms of you to them, if you know you like them, don't stay silent about it and hope it
Right.
works out.
Right.
So I would say in terms of boundaries, don't let intentionality slip through the window.
Right.
Because if you see that someone is just talking to you forever and it's not seeming to have any uh, defining purpose to it, what are we doing?
Right. Right. How do you handle the guilt that comes with setting boundaries?
First of all, in understanding that, let's go back to a simple thing. You have 100 sheep.
Hmm.
Yes, you're out in the mountains, you have 100 sheep. Closing the gate helps to protect the sheep from being mauled by bears.
Right.
What do you need guilt for when it comes to protecting your sheep?
Right.
We sometimes protect our animals way better than we protect our soul. We
Facts.
protect our,
Facts.
you understand? We protect our home with those 3 bolts that you have on the front door way more than we protect our heart. Guilt for
Yes.
what? We
Yeah.
have to start looking at it as, look, our heart and our minds are something that we carry around with us forever. We have to do our utmost to make sure that they're not damaged.
Right. Do you believe that self-care is non-negotiable?
Oh, listen, I do not play with self-care. I am in my soft life era.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband knows that once a month I'm going for my massage. Okay? Every 3 weeks I must get my nails done. Like something is happening. Something is happening. And every now and again, mommy runs away. Yeah, for a
Yeah.
staycation. I will
Yeah.
take myself to a hotel and treat myself for a week or two. Make sure they're good. Y'all good? But but here's the thing. In the plane, they always tell you put your oxygen mask on first.
Mm-hmm.
If you want the best treatment from me, if you want a good, loving wife, if you
Mm-hmm.
want mommy to take care of you and make you feel cherished,
Mm-hmm.
mommy needs to take care of herself. So I do not play about self-care. Hashtag unapologetic.
I love it. I love it. And why do you think people feel guilty for taking that time to care for themselves?
Because we've been kind of programmed, especially with the hierarchy of family. We've often been programmed that it's okay for the man to go off and indulge in his business, indulge in his golf, spend time with friends. But when mommy does it, it's selfish.
Right.
That's how we've been programmed. We've always been programmed that mommy or wifey takes care of everyone else. Never have we thought that they are allowed to take care of themselves, or if they do take care of themselves, it's always discreet, not trumpeted and
Right.
heralded,
Right.
you know? So
What
that's why the guilt.
what do you think would be a self-care rule that people should consider adopting immediately?
I think one self-care rule is to think out what one activity gives you your peace. Okay? So, and you have to ensure that that's happening every 3 to 6 weeks. So, for example, when I go to the nail salon,
Hmm.
my nail technician is my therapist. We talk about everything under the sun. We catch up on our reality shows. I tell her what's coming on stream. And by the time I'm done with her and I've paid my money, whew, I feel liberated.
I always say a nail tech and a bartender is very similar to being a
Oh, yeah.
counselor, or a
Oh,
hairdresser
yeah.
even, you know. So, what would you say to someone who feels like they have not earned their rest yet?
You have earned it. Full stop. Stop waiting for, a lot of people say, when my children leave the house, then I can. Or when I retire, then I'll be able to cruise the world. There's always a when and a timeline. Here's the tough reality. Sometimes that timeline never comes. I know a couple that they were excited that each of them was about to retire.
Uh-huh.
Well, I know two couples now I'm thinking about it, two different scenarios. Uh, In one instance, both were teachers. They had just retired. They were excited to now start traveling.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, she had got a cancer diagnosis and
Hmm.
she passed away soon after. So they were never able to accomplish what they wanted together. In
Right.
another instance, the husband, he got dementia. That cruise that they were looking forward to, they never got to achieve,
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to stop the guilt nonsense. Stop it.
I
I
think
give
that's
you
fair, yeah.
permission. I
Yeah.
give you permission to stop feeling guilty because it makes no sense that the rest of your household is functioning and you're dropping down struggling with something or the other because you wanted to give your all and show how selfless you were.
Right. And I like
Yeah.
that because I remember, I had taken care of my grandma with dementia, and one of the things before I realized she had dementia that she said was, I'd really like to do such and such, but I'm too old for that now.
Oh,
And like that really, and this was like probably, well, it's probably been almost 10 years now, but it was really eye-opening for me because I was like, I don't want to get to that age and
yeah.
say, I wish I would have. Like I want to try and
Yeah.
do as much as I can now. I mean, I know there's gonna be some things where I wish I would have, but
Yeah.
I need to be maximizing what I can do in life. And I think that that is not only an important part of self-care, but an important part of just relationship building with your kids, with your spouse, with whoever
Yes.
you travel with, with yourself even. I love being on the ocean. That's like my jam. I love it. I love going on cruises. We got a room with the balcony last time we went on a cruise, and I love just sitting out there reading my book as we're,
Nice.
selling. And that's me. I'm a water person. Of course, I live in Arizona and we don't have a lot of water here, so
Yeah, 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 yeah. Take
to be ve-
advantage.
but that's my thing, and I think that we we get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of life that we forget that those little things are very grounding for us, you know?
Not only that, I believe that we're honestly put on earth to live life all the more abundantly. I
Right,
want that if I drop down dead tomorrow, you can feel a little sad, but also feel happy at the fact that I tried every single food I wanted to try. I tried all the places that I wanted to visit, that throughout my lifetime, I wanted to make sure that I died empty,
right,
meaning I give my all to other people. I tried things and I never shortchanged myself waiting until later to
right.
experience something.
Right. No, and I think that's good. One of the things we talked about before too, and I think I might have been the one to, I don't know if I might have been the one to bring it up. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I have to limit how much news I consume. It just takes a toll on me. And you had also mentioned that you limit how much news you consume. What is your thought process behind that?
Uh, what you ingest defines what you think. What you think defines your action and your behaviors and what you experience in life. So, me flooding my head bad news, because that's all news is.
Right.
Have you ever noticed that if there is a news station and it's broadcasting news, let's say for an hour,
Hmm.
5 minutes at the end is the
Yes.
good news of what has
Yes.
happened,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Everything
Yes.
else
And that's the
is
news story that
this
doesn't
craft.
get repeated.
Correct. Correct. So I have been very deliberate in the sense that I don't watch the news.
Right.
Um, I don't read newspapers. Don't get me wrong, I know what's happening,
Hmm.
right? Thanks to social media or whatever, something will pass across my way, some headline. So I know I am informed about what is going on in the world. But do
Right.
I need to really know that this amount of people were taken out by this explosion? Like, how is that adding value to my life?
Right.
Right?
Right.
So I'm very deliberate about what I let in. Um, and I found especially there was one war once that I kept watching it and ingesting what was happening on a daily basis through social media. And I found that after a few weeks, I was literally depressed. And I was like, no,
Hmm.
no,
Yep.
this is not healthy.
I went through that in January. I was like,
Yeah,
I'm watching entirely too much of this and I need to stop.
yeah,
It's good to know what's going on, but I need to stop. Um,
yeah.
and that was my next question was about the constant exposure. So you've already answered that. How do you think people can protect their mental health without completely disconnecting from the world?
I think you can. One of the things that we forget is that we have the power, right? We've been given the gift of free will.
Right.
We literally have the power to write our own script.
Yes.
We literally have the power to write our own narrative. So, for example, just like what we were talking about there just now, I realized that bad news puts me in a bad place.
Mm-hmm.
So, guess
Mm-hmm.
what? I have given myself permission to cut it out of my equation. Yeah? So,
Yeah, no,
any
it makes sense. It makes sense.
any TV shows that I watch are usually fickle and full of laughter. I
Yeah.
have curated a narrative where you're not going to steal my joy that easily. So, I think that's the first step, realizing that you do have the power to decide the outcome of your life to a certain extent in terms of your quality of life. And a lot of it starts with what you allow to get in your eye gates and your ear gates.
Right.
You have the power to choose.
Now we're going to talk about identity shift and growth. If somebody is stuck in the same patterns, same relationships, same cycles, where can they actually start with change?
Well, the first thing is to determine that you have a problem or you have a challenge. The hardest thing is to acknowledge that things are not going the way that you would like. So first, once you have acknowledged that, it is up to you to determine this is something that needs professional help, or is this something that I can sit down and write out some behavioral targets and some, an action plan for myself. But you have to give yourself a course of action to get from where you are to where you want to be. And it also starts too by envisioning, where do you want to be?
Right.
A lot of people are stuck in bad situations because they can't even see where it is that they want to go. And once you have that, reverse engineer it and start then asking yourself, how do I achieve that?
Right.
So you have to write the vision down and make it plain so that you can then execute whatever it takes to get you out on the other side.
Okay. All right. I think I can agree with that too. And I think sometimes
Mhm.
people are just so overwhelmed because they've adapted to living a certain way for so long, whether it was a gradual adaptation or just something they've always been used to. And I think they get
Yes.
overwhelmed and they don't know where to start. And I think even perfectionism can tie into that because I know I'm a little
Mhm.
bit of a perfectionist, and if it can't be done perfect, then I don't want to do it. And I have to really
Mm.
try to overcome that sometimes. So I think you get the same overwhelm in both of those situations for sure. What do you think is something people need to unlearn before they can truly experience growth?
I think you have to unlearn the fact that this is not just who you are,
Hmm.
right? A lot of people feel stuck in the sense that I guess this is how it is. This is who I am. This is what I deserve. This is my lot in life. No, you have the power to change.
Hmm.
You have the power to change the direction of your life. So you have to believe and know that brighter things are ahead.
Right.
And only then can you, move forward.
I think part of the unlearning is realizing that just because we've always done something some way doesn't mean it has to stay that way or that it's the right way. I think sometimes
Correct.
we forget that. I know I forget that sometimes. Like just because it's always been this way doesn't mean I have to keep doing it this way. And I think sometimes that can contribute to that cycle of staying stuck.
Mhm.
What do you think moving differently actually looks like in real life?
As pertains to what?
Well, we were talking earlier about how actually your analogy earlier of how like the queen has the escort, right? And
Mm.
there's certain things that you have to do in the presence of a queen. And I think that that is something analogy wise, it's a great example for the boundaries situation. So moving differently, I think would pertain more to the boundary side of things. So what do you think that would look like in real life as it pertains to boundaries, self-worth, and relationships?
Well, firstly, it starts with establishing that you are worthy.
Hmm.
Some people don't even see themselves in the light of a queen. You know, it starts with determining, who am I? What is my value? And it can simply start by you writing out a list of things that the world is graced by because you are here.
Right.
So it might be, for example, that I am kind and loving. I say a positive word to everyone I meet. Based on what people tell me, I'm great with dealing with small children. I am, write down whatever positive traits they are about you and start reframing how you see your worth. So you start there first. And once you have that, then you can, start determining, how do I bring my best self out to the world? And, but you have to start with step one.
Right. Right. If you could sit down with the version of you before everything changed, what would you tell yourself?
I would say Remember when you asked for patience, Cherita, at a red light and you thought it was just about traffic moving faster from here onward? Um, Asking for patience means that a lot of things were going to happen in your life to help you grow that patience. And don't be discouraged. Don't be dismayed by the length of time that you've had to wait for things to work out for you. Um, Stay encouraged that during the seasons of waiting, you will grow so much, you will learn so much, and including how to value yourself, your worth, what you will and will not tolerate. So look forward to the future with enthusiasm that you will reap the rewards of your heart's deepest desires. You know, God's timing is perfect. Everything will work out when it is supposed to. Don't give
Right,
up.
right. I love it. I love it. So I hope everybody takes a little something from that because that's pretty good. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, where can people find you after today's episode, and what might they be interested in that you have produced?
Cherita O'Dell Speaks is my handle on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also visit CheritaO'DellSpeaks.com. And I am excited about my first novel, Good God! That is literally the name of it. And that is a single girl's rocky path to finding true love. And yes, I am a married woman, but like many people, I was once single. And not everybody desires to be married. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. But for those of you who are just living in a sea of frustration and fatigue,
Mhm.
I think this will help you to know that it's all right. You're right where you're supposed to be. Don't despise the process. And here are some tips and comical stories and tips of, how you can make some adjustments as well.
I love it. I love it. Do you have a launch date yet, or is it still kind of in progress?
The, the book is out. You
Okay,
can find it on Amazon. To help you out, you can visit goodgodhelpmeout.com,
I love
and
it.
that will help to take you to the link, goodgodhelpmeout.com. And it is a story about Ava and her journey. A lot of those are pretty much coming off of my stories. There are a laugh and a half, and in the process of dying from laughter, you're going to come away saying, you know what, I can do better on this aspect. Let me remove this aspect. Let me put up this wall, and lots of tips to really help you uh, navigate this single dating world, which is not for the faint of heart.
Right, right. I will make sure too that we drop those links in the show notes so that people can easily find them.
Perfect.
And I want to thank you so much for joining me today. You are actually my very first guest. I've spoken with several, but like recording wise, you were the one who had the most early date to record.
Ah,
So I'm so excited.